Hi, Terry Franks here. Welcome back to my channel, Prescott Voice. Please be sure to hit those subscribe, like, and share buttons. I would really appreciate it. So recently, my husband went on a hunt for elk, and he did end up harvesting a cow elk. So now we will have some delicious, hormone-free, very healthy meat in our freezer. And in light of that, and the article I just read about Bill Gates and what he's up to, he and his elitist and globalist friends, like Klaus Schwab. And, he's just a piece of work too. And so is Gates. I don't know why Gates is even uh, tinkering with all this. Isn't he a software developer? I mean, what happened to that? Shouldn't he go back and just concentrate on those things and leave his little patties off our food supply? Just anyway, the USD has approved this in vitro meat for our consumption. Isn't that nice of them? I mean, their reasoning behind it is climate change. It's going to be better for the environment. It's not going to, we just don't have enough land for all the cattle and the chickens and the goats and the sheep. We just don't have enough land. And we don't have enough water. There's just not, and the greenhouse gases and really the bleeding hearts that don't like to have animals slaughtered for their meat. But what I believe the real reason is, they want to control us and reduce the population. Now, I made some notes here. So the planet's population right now, I believe, is around 7 billion, 7.3 billion. And by 2050, it's going to be 9 billion. So, these guys, these globalists are saying, we're just going to run out of food. There's just not going to be enough food for everyone. Now, they're playing God is what they're doing. I mean, these people are crazy. They just can't help themselves. So now we have lab grown in vitro meat. And what they want you to understand, what they are marketing is that, oh, this is so great for the environment. We're going to save animals from slaughter. And we're going to do it in a very sustainable, responsible way. And what could go wrong in a lab? Because that's where it's at right now. This is being grown in a lab environment. What happens when they have to scale this to feed millions and millions and billions of people? Yeah, it goes out of the lab and into factories. I think over the last few years, we have seen what labs can do to the population. So for me, in researching, I was digging into this further because I wanted to know about what processes they use to create this meat. And what I found is shocking. I think it's shocking. And what they want to market this not as in vitro meat or lab grown meat. No, they want to market it as clean meat and cultured meat. Yeah. Doesn't that sound so much better? In order to make this meat in the lab, and this is what they're struggling with right now. They're struggling with this fetal bovine serum, stem cells, right? They want to get away from it because it's not really comfortable for them. No, because why? They have to take these cells from dead, and I'm going to just kind of focus just on beef right now. They have to take these cells, the serum, they have to take the serum from dead calves. Okay, how are the calves dead? Well, they're butchering the mother. So when they butcher the mother, they're drawing out this serum from the calf. And then they're taking that and they're taking a petri dish, they're putting it in the petri dish with a bunch of other chemicals and things to help it grow, kind of like a tumor. So that's the way I think of it. And how are they going to stop? I don't know how they're going to control all this because cancer cells can be present, right? I mean, what are we going to be eating with this in vitro cultivated, as they put it, meat? What are we going to be eating? The type of culture in the serum used aims to be slaughter free. It's contradictory to me to use this fetal bovine serum from the blood of dead calves. Does that sound fair? I think so. How can you be slaughter free and have to draw this bovine serum from these poor little dead calves? And what about oversight and dysregulation? What about that? Dysregulation is they can't have perfect control over these things, these scientists. They can't control it perfectly. So, what happens when something happens, sort of like what happened, in 2020? Yeah, when things just go awry. And what happens to the population then? When you look at it online, they've got pictures of somebody, a chef, cooking a piece of chicken. And it's about the size of I don't know, a $50. My husband can eat. He's a meat eater. He's a meat and potato guy. He's a cowboy. And meat is important in our diet. We love meat. We're not vegans. We're not, vegetarians, although, vegetables, I could live on vegetables. But we like our meat. So what about the water consumption? They say that these cows are just sucking up all the water. We're not going to have any water. It's claimed, they say, it's claimed in the media that 15,000 liters of fresh water are necessary to produce 1 kilogram of beef. But in reality, 95% of this amount of water is used for the growth of crops and plants and forages to feed the animals. As far as climate change goes, we've had climate change since the beginning of time, and I really leave that in God's hands because he is in control of the universe. After all, he did create it. But these guys, these scientists that think they're so smart, like Gates and Schwab and all the rest of these crazy people, they think they can play God and create for us another meat supply. I mean, it's just, and God just sits up in the heavens and laughs at them. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. And that's what this is foolishness. I do not see this catching on. There's going to be so many people. And what about all the farmers, the cattle ranchers, the jobs that will be lost? And what about our land? Now, when a cow or a steer releases its manure onto the ground, what does that do? It adds nutrients to the soil that we need for growing crops. And what happens to these animals? So I'm reading this article on Meat. That's a company that is making this in vitro meat. And this is what they say: a new way of bypassing slaughter. They say that they have a different approach, one that involves keeping the cows, who are very much alive, in the picture. Okay, isn't that great? Okay, that sounds good. Cow is still alive. Meat plans to extract proteins from the blood plasma of living cows on a continual basis, using the animals as a renewable source of basal media from which the company can cultivate beef. In vitro beef. These same proteins can theoretically be used to create chicken, pork, though for now, meat is focused solely on beef. The Southern California-based company currently has their own farm with 75 cows, each of whom donates plasma cells on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Just how much each cow donates is based on their body weight. Meat's process could reduce the number of cows needed to create meat by 95% or more. Isn't that great? But let's read on here. While this new proposed cultivated meat model does involve animal agriculture, it doesn't involve slaughterhouses. Oh no. The final product would require far less suffering. Far less suffering. So the animal still suffers in making this in vitro beef. These cows can theoretically live their entire lives on large farms until dying of natural causes. Aww. The incentive for slaughtering animals goes away, says the president or owner of this company. I'll link to this article. It's just ridiculous. This is where I thought, okay, here we go. O-Meat's head of veterinary and farm operations, Cordell Bennigson, says the welfare of the cows is a top priority. The animals are free to roam the pasture, which the company describes as, quote, perennial grasses and clover, end quote. And they receive frequent wellness checks and physicals from trained animal handlers hired by the company. The plasma extraction process, which takes about 8 liters of blood in sessions that can last up to 4 hours, was designed to minimize stress. Led by Dr. Christina Horvath, an animal behaviorist from UC Davis, the system rewards the animals with treats and gives them anesthesia to keep pain to an absolute minimum. I think that's horrific. So they're out there with these 75 cows that they have, and they're sucking out 8 liters of the animal's blood. They have to give them anesthesia to keep the pain to a minimum, just a minimum. So they are in pain. This sounds like mad science. It is disgusting. I would rather starve than to ever eat what these globalists are planning for us. This in vitro grown, gross meat. Give me God's creation any day. He gave us the animals on the planet for our consumption. Yes, for slaughter. Yes, cows, pigs, chickens. God created meat for our consumption. These scientists are trying to play God, and they're not helping the animal, clearly. We want, and the article goes on, we wanted to ensure that our process not only provided very good living conditions, pointing to the ample space allotted for grazing, but at the same time that the extraction process was not hurting them in any way. In the paragraph just before that, it said it's keeping the pain to a minimum. So, and they have to have anesthesia. And what happens when the cow is finally just so sick from having so much plasma extracted, 8 liters of blood in sessions that can last up to 4 hours? I mean, what happens to this cow? Does it die naturally? Really? I don't think so. And what do they do with the animal when they're done with it? Okay? It's still alive. It's probably not as healthy as it once was. You have all these doctors tinkering with it. That it's kind of like mice in a lab and doing tests on them. They die, animals die all the time in labs, lab testing. So O-Meat's model isn't entirely free of ethical challenges. Bennigson says that the cows no longer able to donate plasma are sold to cattle farmers, though he adds that O-Meat is currently looking for animal sanctuaries to take them instead, a more ethical alternative. He did not comment on how the company determines when cows will be no longer able to donate plasma or how often they'd be sold to farms. So at what point does the animal, at what point is the cow no longer viable for these crazy people? What happens to it? First, it's tortured for for who knows how long with blood and plasma, 8 liters in 4 hours being drawn. How often are they going to do that? They don't say. You see, they're kind of vague on a lot of things. Why? Because they don't want you, the public, to know what they're up to. Yeah, Bill Gates, do you think he's going to eat this meat? I don't think so. And look, maybe I want a roast. Maybe I want a standing rib roast for Christmas. Yeah, they're not going to have the cuts of meat that you want. No, they're going to have little tiny pieces of in-vitro grown meat. It sounds really just beyond disgusting. And I don't know how they're going to sell this to the public. I'm sure they say in a lot of marketing materials, I've been reading a lot of white papers on this, so I could go on forever about this. It's really going to be marketed to the younger generation. They're going to market it to them because they live in the big cities, generally speaking. And, they may be vegetarians or vegans, and they may want to try this because, hey, if it's slaughter free, I'd be happy to do it. Those that are against slaughtered animals. But they're not going to research what this is. You start digging into the white papers and the research papers on this, and you get a whole new feeling for this in vitro grown meat. Now, I don't know what restaurants are going to kind of wade into this pool and start serving it, but I hope they are very transparent on what they're serving. I mean, I just learned the other day that they're already putting cricket meal bugs into our food. This is going to happen. This is all about control. This is all about the globalists and Bill Gates and all the rest controlling the population. You see, they want to reduce the population. Yeah, the people they want to get down to, 500 million in the population. So as we move into 2024, we're really going to have to pay attention as consumers, as Christians, as people that have a brain, and question these scientists on what they're doing. Are we going to just be led along by the nose and let these people feed us this garbage? I don't think so. I'm not going to buy it. And I will be on the lookout for it in the stores because the USDA, they said, oh, yeah, this is great. Let's do it. So the only place that, other than the U.S., that it is legal to sell this in vitro meat, this lab-grown meat, is in Singapore. So we've got Singapore and the U.S. now. And Australia is working hard on this too. And they plan on this being rolled out on a large scale. Yeah, I think they have a long way to go because this meat that they're growing in the lab is not inexpensive. It is very expensive. But they're going to tell you, hey, it's better for you. It's better for the environment, climate change. It's such a joke. Everybody out there that wants to know more about it, I mean, you can find out, you can see what these people are up to. You can follow their little plan to reduce the population, to control us completely. So they are racing to replace the fetal bovine serum at scale. They have to get away from that in order for them to be able to sell it, especially to people that don't like animals being harmed. And right now, when you're taking 8 liters of plasma from a cow and you have to give it anesthesia and treats, that to me is like a horror movie. I can't even believe that this is something that they think is okay. And you shouldn't either. So my husband will continue to hunt, and they don't want you to do that either. Oh my goodness, these globalists, they don't want you out there hunting. No, They don't want you to, they don't want you out there supplying your own food. They don't want you to hunt. They don't want you to garden. They don't want you to take up any space. You know, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I see this coming down the pike fast and furious. They are trying to do this as fast as they can. Now, on the flip side of this, you know, they say, oh, we're doing this to save the planet. Yeah. No, it's all about money and control. Money and control. Taking money away from us, the middle class, and it's a transfer of wealth. They're going to force people to eat this crap. And I hope we don't fall for it. And I could go on about this. They have long-range goals, people. And I say that we have to wake up and question what Bill Gates is doing, question what these globalists are doing. We have to make a stand. What about all the cattle ranchers and chicken farmers and pig farmers? What about them? What are they going to do? Some of them have been in the business for century or more. So I don't understand how this benefits anyone except the elites and the globalists. That's who it benefits. I was at a Christmas luncheon yesterday at the Hacienda, and there was a number of ladies there, and there was 3 ladies. We were at the end of the table, you know, probably 10 or 12 of us there. Most of them ordered salads with salmon or whatever. I wanted the French dip. I had been working out on my hydro, and, you know, I do 15 to 20,000 meters a day, roughly. And so I was hungry. I was ready to eat, and I love beef. So I went for the French dip. So did my friend, and another gal had a barbecue beef quesadilla. Well, I just can't even imagine the meat grown in an in-vitro lab being better than the fatty, wonderful, delicious, juicy prime rib French dip that I had. It's just not going to happen. So as I was sitting there and we were talking about what we were going to order, that, you know, the rest of the ladies were having salad and we were going to have beef. Yeah. I said, did you know that the USDA has approved for sale in grocery stores and restaurants in vitro lab grown meat? And they were surprised. They were shocked. What? They said. And then I started to explain it. The looks on their faces said it all. They were horrified. I think it's just godless. I think it's ridiculous. They want to make hordes of money. That's what this is all about, hordes of money. And take it from us and force us to eat this garbage. And I'm not going to do it. And it isn't animal friendly at all. They're trying to get rid of this bovine serum. They don't want to use it. They have to now. They can't do it any other way. Yeah, they're trying to play God. And God is just, I'm sure he is in the heavens laughing. I hope that we can really wake up. I will link to some resources in the description so you can research it yourself. It's going to show up in our grocery stores soon. It just looks bizarre when you see their videos on it, you know, where they're showing us how similar it is to natural meat. It's not. It looks terrible. I just had to talk about it because Bill Gates is really going crazy with all this, and he and so many others, yeah, they're all out trying to control us. So let's question what they're doing and not stand for it. Thank you for watching.